2 days until the first debate that will be Joe Biden's biggest test as a candidate for the presidency. And what happens? The New York Times earlier Sunday evening released an expose, a bombshell report on Trump's tax returns. Their sources, anonymous, as always. They always are. Trump is a fraud, they say. He's losing billions and he pays no taxes. Well, we can see with our own eyes that's not true. The average person isn't familiar with the ins and outs of running a huge organisation. They know that, and they're using it to mislead you. Trump isn't doing anything out of the ordinary here. There's no new revelation, and we're going to explain why. But before we get into that, this is Political Election 2020. I'm Ian Smith, and as always, I'm joined by Connor Allen.
Hello.
Please consider subbing if you enjoy our content. Smash that like button. That's what they say, isn't it? Also, comment down below and tell us what you think. But the best thing you can do is share this video and help us spread our content with people you think would enjoy it. So, let's take a look at the article in question. Long concealed records show Trump's chronic losses and years of tax avoidance. Donald J. Trump paid $750 in federal income taxes the year he won the presidency. In the first year in the White House, he paid another $750. He had paid no income taxes at all in the 10 of the previous 15 years, largely because he was reporting losing much more money than he made. As the president wages a re-election campaign that polls say he is in danger of losing, his finances are under stress, beset by losses and hundreds of millions of dollars in debt coming due that he has personally guaranteed. Also hanging over him is a decade-long audit battle with the Internal Revenue Service over the legitimacy of a $72 million tax refund that he claimed and received after declaring huge losses, an adverse ruling that could cost him more than $100 million. So it's quite a long-winded article. As you can see, we can't obviously go all through it, but we've kind of broken it down to the key points, the key revelations that the New York Times is trying to portray here. And can we just say again, it's anonymous sources. There's always anonymous sources. Yeah.
It's almost like this has happened before. Look, this is the oldest trick in the book for the left wing, isn't it? You know, what needs to happen, they need to reveal their sources and they need to tell us, first of all, how they got this information, who they got it from, as well as there's so many things you can identify when you reveal the sources. You have to know if it's credible, because Trump certainly denies it. Trump says it's all fake news. Why should we disbelieve him? He has his taxes undergoing audit. He's committed to releasing them once that audit's finished. But he's not going to lie. Like, he will get caught out immediately if he's going to lie. Get more anonymous sources. They make an accusation against the president. The mainstream media jumps in and attacks with this unfounded allegation, but it's an anonymous source. So you can't even question who it's coming from.
And the thing is, like, if the New York Times believes that their source is legitimate, then fine. That's okay. But how do we know they're legitimate? Like, we need to be able to scrutinize the source and make sure that the numbers that they're coming out with are real. It could be making fraudulent, tax returns for all we know and reporting them as real, and then saying, well, I still need, to remain anonymous so I don't face any scrutiny. And then the New York Times eats it up. Of course, they're not going to turn down a story like this, right?
Sure. So, listen, if the New York Times want us to take their word that the sources are real, I'm going to take Donald Trump's word that the sources aren't real, because it's a flip of a coin. It's a leap of faith.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, let's, for the sake of argument, assume that the facts that they're reporting here are broadly accurate. Or let's just say, I don't know, let's just say outright that this is what it is. Assume that these are real documents. There aren't even any real revelations in there anyway. So the first point, income tax. Trump has often bragged, actually, especially in 2016 and before then during the primary process, that he takes advantage of all the loopholes to lower his income tax. People know about this.
People don't mind it. He's a billionaire. He is what he is. People expect it.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't. And this, he's only paid. They say he's only paid income tax in 10 of 15 years. Well, sure, because the taxes are paid through all the other various different ways, like capital gains tax or property taxes, or whatever, and all these various different things. Income tax generally is reserved for if he is effectively taking money out of the Trump organization and paying himself some kind of salary or whatever. So Absolutely. It really wouldn't make any sense for him to be doing that. He gets all the privileges and luxurious lifestyle that he could possibly want to live by basically living his life through the Trump organization, and did do that for many years. I mean, he had his own plane. Which he just flew a big giant Boeing that he just flew around the world in. That obviously is part of the Trump organization. That doesn't come out of his own pocket per se. Those are the expenses of the company.
Absolutely. And this is just going back to what you said in the introduction. The mainstream media know the average person doesn't have a large business, isn't a billionaire, isn't a millionaire. They won't have any familiarity with what's the normal here. So therefore, they bank on that to use it to deceive you. And what feeds into that as well is this left-wing narrative that the only social contribution you can make is tax, which is completely untrue. If you think about it, so what businessmen like Donald Trump will do is they'll take the earnings from their company, and rather than, as you say, paying themselves a salary, they'll re-inject those earnings back into the company and invest back in the company. That is creating more jobs. That's creating more livelihoods. That's making the system flow. It's pumping money through the economy. It's the life of the economy. He's making his social contribution. But if you're on the left, all you care about is paying income tax. It's silly. Taxes are an abstraction of social contribution. They're not the be-all and end-all. At least I don't think.
Right. And if you just look at the bigger picture here, like you said, look at what the Trump organization has done. Like, I mean, he's had some failed ventures. No one disagrees with that. Like Trump Steaks and Trump University and this kind of thing. But he's had so many more successful ones. He's obviously done quite well for himself. Anyone can see that. That just from the eye test, anyone can see that. But the reality is that these things are irrelevant because they're out in the open and he brags about them. But he's employed thousands and thousands of people. All those people pay taxes. He contributes to their taxes, or his organization, his companies do.
Social welfare.
Yeah, this is the lifeblood of the economy. This is what the economy is about. So he takes that money, and whenever they make money, they reinvest that money straight away. Why? It doesn't make sense for businesses to hold on to profits because they just have to pay taxes on it. It makes sense to maximize future revenue as opposed to holding on to existing profit, letting it sit there and pay taxes on it. So typically they don't do it. This is why companies like Amazon and Facebook or whatever report losses year after year. It's the same principle.
So absolutely the same principle, just as you say.
And I think that kind of brings to this next point of chronic losses. Now, the reason that they've done this is because they want to paint the picture of this sort of, this guy up to his neck in debt, really struggling, portraying himself as this really successful businessman. But actually, deep beneath the layers, here's a guy who's hundreds of millions of pounds in debt. They say he's like 400 million in debt. Again, this is a typical. I'm no expert on this. Okay, obviously, I'm not an accountant. I'm not like a tax attorney or whatever, or anything like that. But I've obviously read into these things and tried to have a better understanding, because you cannot apply the same logic that you would apply to someone that just earns a normal salary and just pays income tax. It's a different world and things work differently. So the money that he owes, those are just loans. that have been leveraged against real estate, right?
He's not taking these loans out to buy a new car, is he? Okay, he's taking them to open a business with a long-term plan that he's going to run a deficit or a loss for a certain amount of time and then pay it back in due course. It's again, this goes back to the mainstream media. They bank on the average person's knowledge of loans being what they have access to. You want to take a loan to buy a car for something.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah,
use it to deceive you.
And so again, these two things kind of add up when you talk about chronic losses or money owed and this kind of thing. The money that Trump supposedly loses every year generally is coming from reported losses that come from just a bunch of different kind of, I don't know if you want to call them tax loopholes or whatever, I don't know. But essentially, if in real estate you build a property or buy a property or whatever, you would report that it has depreciated in value and say that you've lost money, when in reality all you're saying is that your assets are worth less. And because of this, you wouldn't have to pay as much income tax. So this is something you would typically see all across real estate. It's like, for instance, right, because Trump builds a lot of new buildings, right? If you buy a brand new car for, say, $30,000, the moment that you buy it, it probably loses 20% of its value because it's now second-hand. Well, the same principle can be applied to building a new building. If you spend 80 million, let's say 100 million or something, building a big office block in Manhattan or something like that, the moment that it's built, it's effectively, and people move in, it effectively loses some of its value because it's no longer a brand new building. And it's the same with golf courses or whatever and this kind of thing. As people come and play golf, the various aspects of the course deteriorate. You report those losses, and because of it, the depreciation, you say that you make less money and you don't have to pay taxes on it. So all really that's happening here are just lots of accounting tricks, ways in which Trump can, and his organization, from our organization, can get away with paying less tax. But again,
I wouldn't even say it's tricks, Ian, because a trick is something you use to kind of fool a system, right? But the system's literally built to compensate business owners for their losses or for the depreciation and the value of their property. It's built so that to take a bit of the risk off their shoulders. It's not really a trick, you know?
Yeah, well, I know what you mean. I suppose in kind of in layman's terms, you describe it, I suppose, as a trick in the sense that it's a way of getting around doing something. I don't know, but so the other two things really is this IRS battle. So Trump has said multiple times now he doesn't want to release his tax, or he can't release his taxes because of he's been audited for by the IRA. The IRS, I should say.
Well, that's going into a different topic there.
Yeah,
and he said it consistently over years, hasn't he? Years and years and years. It's not like he's just invented the argument now. So the tax issues come up before, and he's committed for a long time. He's been very consistent on it.
Yeah. So while there is no law that obviously stops him from releasing his tax returns while he's been audited by the IRA, he will obviously be advised not to release them while he's been audited, and that obviously just makes sense because it's just going to face more scrutiny if he does so. But here's the thing, that has often been claimed to be false by a lot on the left as an excuse. Well, this article actually supports him in this claim and says that he's actually been under audit for I think it's 14 years or something like this, which is insane. So in many ways, they've actually debunked a lot of the left-wing myths. Because Trump wasn't releasing his tax returns, they were saying all sorts of things like, he doesn't want to release his returns because Russia actually is sending him loads of money every year and he has to report on that, and actually it's because he's in Putin's pocket or whatever. I don't know. I lose track of them because they're so insane. But the article itself, if I can find the bit, they even say there's nothing new in this article that says reveal any previous unreported connections to Russia. So this idea that Trump hiding away his tax returns because he didn't want people to know about his connections to Russia, again, debunked. So what exactly, for someone who has a little bit of an understanding about the way that the Trump organization might run, the way a big real estate organization might run, what exactly is in here that is any kind of new revelation? I don't get it.
Just pulling back to that Russia point for a second, it's very interesting to see that there is, a high level politician declaring connections to Russia in their taxes, and it's Hunter Biden, right? But the mainstream media is ignoring that, and they're focusing on the absolute non-story of Trump's tax returns. It's almost as if they have their own agenda.
And this is it, and it really bothered me. I mean, I was getting quite annoyed with it, really, because we've all been looking forward to debates. 2 days until the debates. Can't wait, really, to see Trump and Biden on the stage together. I think Biden has not faced any scrutiny, really, whatsoever. When he has, he's just faltered and failed.
Every time.
And we all know that as soon as Trump can directly scrutinize him, he's going to really, really struggle. And this is just another attack. It's orchestrated between all these left-wing outlets, one after the other, the Woodward book and this and the war hero, the losers comments or whatever and all this. And it's like just consistently organized. Every couple of weeks, we need a new report that says we're going to pull out a report that says this. We're going to write an article that says this. We're going to write an article that says this. What do they all have in common? Anonymous sources. And they're coming out almost like, it's
cockroaches out of the woodwork.
Yeah, and that they've put together a plan, like a campaign strategy almost. Every sort of 2 weeks, hey, we're going to put out a new thing from now until the end of the election. I don't know if this is going to be any more damaging than the others. If the others have been damaging, I do believe that the vast majority of Trump supporters don't have much faith in these news outlets anyway, so they're probably not going to take it particularly seriously. And on that note, I mean, is there anything else you wish to add?
Nothing from me.
Okay, well, thank you for watching. And of course, the New York Times have said that this is actually the first of many articles that they will be releasing between now and the election. I'm sure that's nothing to do with maximizing profit on their part and everything to do with just informing voters. But as and when they do release those new articles, we'll be covering them and letting you know exactly what they entail. So please subscribe if you haven't already and click that notification bell.